before, so I will made efforts to trim that down a little bit, but I do want to kind of hit the highlights for people that haven't heard it before. And first of all, my name is Jake Rio with Courier and Hudson, counsel for the district, and what we are engaged in here is the process of shifting from an at-large election of trustees to by trustee area, and in furtherance of the purposes of the California Voting Rights Act. A by trustee area system converts, first of all, it's the only safe harbor from the California Voting Rights Act lawsuits, and the school district boundaries are converted into trustee areas. In this board's instance, 5 trustee areas. Let me try this now. Okay. Okay, we'll give it a second. And then there will be 1 board member elected from each trustee area. Those board members are elected by the registered voters of the trustee area in which they reside. So, now of course the boardroom Apple TV is not showing up as one of the options. Only one that says District Office Kim Apple TV.
No, we can all go to my office.
Okay, I will continue forward here.
I'll let you know when we're good to go. Hopefully
Okay.
I can get this to work, alrighty?
That'd be great. Nothing about this process changes the district's existing school attendance boundaries. Nothing about this process changes the existing terms of office for any of the school board members. And nothing about this process changes the fact that elected board members still continue to serve the district as a whole, and of course serve all students at the district. Now, a little bit about the roadmap of where we've been and where we're going. In September, on September 14th, the board adopted a resolution to initiate this process. Then the board held 2 public hearings in December prior to any maps being developed. I was here as counsel for the district. David, the district's demographer, was here as well to receive feedback. From there, those meetings took place on December 4th and December 11th. From there, the maps were created. There were 3 maps initially created and circulated and posted. Those maps were posted online to the district's website 7 days before the board meeting, which is required in the statute. We also posted them at the school locations, and there were announcements on social media about this process at each of these meetings, giving people notice of that. And oftentimes there were notices that went out, like in Friday updates as well, just as a way of like letting the community know that these meetings were taking place. So then we had 2 meetings to receive feedback on the maps. Those were on January 18th and February 15th, the maps, and then the proposed sequence of those elections in those maps. After the February 15th meeting and the dialogue there were 2 additional maps created that were then posted a week ago, again, 7 days beforehand. And we have those. Those were circulated a week ago. Hopefully you all had seen them and had a chance to take a look. And we were going to talk about them here as well. Let's see. And then the goal is today is the 3rd. There we go. Let's pause for a second. I'll type that in. Okay, here we are at the bottom of the page, February 29th, public hearing and board selection of voting area map and resolution on the change in the election method. So, first today we have the presentation and the public hearing, and opportunity for any additional feedback, dialogue about the maps. We now have 5 map scenarios, maps 1, 2, and 3, and 3A and 3B. And they're labeled as 3A and 3B because they are inspired by or tweaked from map 3. And then the goal would be today there's an action item to adopt a resolution that should be in your board packets as well. A word on that resolution, it has 2 exhibits. One of those is the first resolution from September, where you initiate this process. The second exhibit is to be determined, because it'll be the maps that are selected. So we'll tack that in afterwards. Okay. So there'll be the approval today, if that's the board's intent. Then the matter would go to the County Committee on School District Organization, which is the County Board of Education sitting with a different title and a different role, but the same membership. They will hold a public hearing in the district boundaries. That'll be here, tentatively looking at March 28th based on their board's existing schedule. They would come here. It would not be a district board meeting, it would be a county committee meeting. And that would be March 28th, currently slotted at 5 p.m. But of course, that's all predicated on taking action tonight as well. And then I will communicate any action the board takes tonight to the County Board of Ed and just confirm things, and then work with staff on making sure everything's squared away for them to come here and for the district to host the county board. Then, assuming and hoping County Committee on School District Organization, which is a mouthful and not a very good acronym either to be used, approves the change, then it would go into effect for the next election in November. So that's process. The criteria for the maps, we've covered this before. Number 1, population balance substantially equal amongst the districts. That's the term in the law. The criteria in the new election code 21-130, geographically contiguous. You can't have one trustee area that has islands here and there and things of that nature. Respecting local neighborhoods and communities of interest. Respecting census designated places. That comes up with Eucalyptus Hills. We talked about that last time and we'll talk about that again today. Being mindful of natural and artificial boundaries. And I should say these are all in the statute in descending order of priority. And then they are geographically compact, meaning trying to avoid having long, far-reaching, funny-looking shapes. And of course, the districts cannot adopt boundaries for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against any incumbent, candidate, or political party. And these are criteria that apply to any public entity district at the local level that are making these changes. So we have the 3 maps, now we have the additional 2, and David is here to present on those. Again, the maps are also available on the district's website, as well as a tool on the website, a link to look at a very detailed street level view where you can zoom in and add layers for the different maps, which is very helpful. So opportunity for public input again tonight, as well as people can email or go to the district website here on the page, lsusd.net/CBRA to provide input. And I will let David present, and then I'll come back. There were a couple of comments that were put into the website, so I'll share those, but I'll let David go next.
Good evening, and again, members of the board and Dr. Taylor's staff, and those of you in the audience joining us today. David Lopez from Wolford, formerly Cooperative Strategies. And as council mentioned, last time I was here in the post-map 1, I know my associate showed up at the last meeting, but we covered 3 scenarios, scenario 1, 2, and 3, and out of those meetings came scenario 3A and 3B, which I'll cover with you today. I'll go through some of this quickly. If you have any questions at this point, given that we've covered it 3 times now, please let me know. But your district demographic snapshot here, this is all the folks that took the census and how they chose to characterize themselves ethnicity-wise as a population. Next slide is Your largest protected class, which was Hispanic citizen voting age population, I think these are the citizen voting age population estimates for Hispanics. And it's kind of like a distribution heat map, so to speak, and then it also shows the highest concentrations, but it's kind of misleading, as I said before, because it doesn't give you counts. So while a darker area might mean it's more dense with this particular ethnic group, it doesn't mean that there's that many families there necessarily. But we provided as kind of a snapshot to see the distribution. And then the next slide, sorry about that, the next slide is actually scenario 1, which we covered, and I'll cover it again. This was drawn to balanced population. They all were drawn to balanced population as a core criteria, and they all were drawn to respect the Verona tribe boundaries, which was feedback provided to us early on. Keep that intact. And so really the differences are the dividing lines that were used, and we received feedback since then, and that's the result of scenario 3A and 3B, which we'll talk about. But in this particular scenario, and if you go to the next slide, there's a close-up of it. It shows the dividing lines here, and it's pretty much Winters Garden Boulevard, San Vicente Freeway, Lake Shore Drive, Highway 67, and those coaches are the main ones. And this was our first attempt at it, and the data behind this is that the largest protected class, Hispanic, has citizen voting age population estimates of 28.6, and American Indian is highest in Trust Area 5 at 4.2%. So those were the key takeaways for this particular one. That and the fact the population variance was 6.2% amongst all the trust areas. Again, anything under 10% is acceptable. How communities and boards decide to view that number is up to you. I've always said anything under 10% is a winner, but sometimes communities and boards want to get that down to 1 or 2 or 3% for whatever reasons, and they're perfectly entitled to do that. Scenario 2 was a different look, and this one, if you recall, was kind of an east to west look. We tried to see if we could get the population below 5% variance. So it uses kind of dividing lines that are east and west, and as you zoom in, you can see that what those dividing lines are, and it was, again, provided to give you a different look, and this ultimately produced the highest Hispanic citizen voting age population estimate of 24.5% in Trust Area 5, and also Native American was highest in Trust Area 5 and 4%. So that's the demographic slide after that. Again, population variance was 3.8%, quite acceptable. And then we have scenario 3, which a couple others were modified after this, but this was to provide the district with a different look. Same thing, balanced population, respect the Verona tribe boundaries, and see if we can get 5% while respecting the Hispanic CVEP, and also in an effort to make things as compact as possible. So this one came in where we had the highest Hispanic CVEP at 28.8, which was previously the highest of the 3 scenarios. And then American Indian CVEP was highest in the Trust Area 5 at 3.9%. I'm sorry, Trust Area 1. So this is different, and then Trust Area 1 was it. And so that was a different look, and now what spawned off that was scenario 3A. And both scenario and 3A and 3B are offshoots of scenario 3, but with some slightly different dividing lines and scenario. And again, this was to keep eucalyptus hills in one trust area, because there was feedback that what would it look like if you did split it up, you just had it in one area. So in both these scenarios, 3A and 3B, which I'm going to talk about, it did that. And it also took a little bit more land outside of that too, because that's where the cookies crumbled, so to speak. That's where the lines were, and we did 2 different things with it. So each of these scenarios accomplishes that. And in scenario 3A here, I mean, we can zoom in and so this is the zoom in. There we go. You can see the lines, they follow census blocks. This is perfectly acceptable, and the deviation in population was 5.8%. We did manage to achieve in Trust Area 1 a slightly higher Hispanic CVAP, which was 29.4%. Some might argue that's like splitting hairs compared to Trust Area 3, but it was a little higher. It's a different look, and again, it takes into account the fact that Eucalyptus Hills is in one trustee area now. And so other than that, in Trust Area 1 for this scenario. American Indian population was 4.4%, which is also one of the highest. So successful deviation from scenario 3, I guess you could say, if that's what you intended to do with it, and we got all of eucalyptus hills in one area. Now scenario B does the same thing, but it's a different look. And the way we included trust area 5 to get that done is very similar to how we had map number 1, where we had this area. So it does provide a successful encapsulation of all of eucalyptus hills in one trust area. A little bit different numbers here. It's slightly higher percentage, 6% population variance. Still a very high Hispanic CVAP and Native American, American Indian CVAP in trust area 1 at 28.6% and 4.2% respectively. And as you zoom in here, you can see the dividing lines are a bit cleaner, but they follow the same boundaries as at least trust area 5 as the first map. So it's just a different way to accomplish that, while also being splintered off of trust area 3. So we wanted to give you that look, and then to look at it kind of side by side here on a scale. These are the first 3 scenarios here, scenario 1, 2, and 3. And then on the second page, we add scenario 3 again, and then we show you how scenario 3A and 3B deviates a little from that. So again, 3A and 3B, the difference there between scenario 3 is that they both capture eucalyptus hills in their area, in one trustee area. And that said, I guess we'll
I'll jump in.
jump in. Oh, we have one more slide here, which just is another background slide for you. So it kind of summarizes what I told you earlier with the protected classes and population variance.
So as I previewed a moment ago, there were 2 additional comments put into the district website, and one of those, I will tell you, I think the person thought it was a general feedback form for the district, and so it said, there was a comment about Lakeside Middle School not having strawberry milk anymore. So, there you go. So I'm out of full disclosure, that was on our input toggle, but it's not on point here. There was another comment though, just recently that said, map 3 is the only map that includes 1 school in each area and has even distribution of the population. I would question what metrics are being used if these 2 factors are not prioritized. I'm not sure if that comment was new, but I'm not sure if the commenter saw there was also a 3A and 3B. A little bit of comment on that. First of all, as we've discussed before, having a school in each trustee area is not a requirement by any means. The requirements are the ones we went through earlier in terms of balance and contiguous and neighborhoods, communities. Also, because the district has a lot of intra-district attendance, that was one of the things I mentioned previously, that even if somebody was in an area, students were going somewhere else, we have a lot of that in this district, and that's okay, so it's perhaps less of a concern. But the other thing I'll mention is that 3A and B also have elementary schools in each of the trustee areas. So 3, to the extent that that's something that the board values or wants, 3A and 3B all have 1 elementary school in them. There is Lindo Park is kind of right on the border in all 3 of the maps, but in all 3 of them it is in the yellow, the northern yellow area there. Okay, and then that comment also mentioned about distribution of population. As we talked about, and as is on the chart, all of the maps have a very low variance on population. It's accurate that scenario 3 is the lowest of those, but they're all in an area that I would be comfortable with in terms of recommending to the board. So that's, and we're talking about, given the total population of the district, we're talking about differences of like dozens of people can move that number, right? So it's not large chunks of people in these variances. It doesn't take many people to go from 3.8 to 6.2 or something like that. Okay, so, the other thing I'll mention, and then I think continue with any public comment on this, just conceptually, we talked last time about making modifications to map 3, or playing with it, so maybe we can build off of map 3, and that's where 3A and 3B came from, like David said, and primarily to kind of remove the chunk of yellow that was into Eucalyptus Hills. So conceptually, the way I think about A and B is that the bottom portion of, or in 3A, that portion of yellow that came into Eucalyptus Hills is gone. But then to balance the population, there were small adjustments made in the other areas. So that's how you get still some balance there, because you lost a lot of population in yellow, so you move things around little bits, the variance as low as possible. Scenario B accomplishes the same thing of respecting all of Eucalyptus Hills, essentially by taking the top half of map 1 and putting that into, and merging that with the bottom of map 3. So, so that's just conceptually how I think about them, as kind of hybrids there. And other kind of couple points I'll mention, I already mentioned that they both have elementary schools in each of the areas. 3A, because it is very similar to 3, has that geographic compactness factor in that the north and eastern portion is not as big because it's kind of split up between the purple and the yellow, whereas in 3B and some of the other ones, the north and northeastern section is very large, so it has that compactness component. And then 3B uses 67 kind of as it comes across east to west, and then bending north as the boundary there. So I'll stop there. If there's any questions, I can weigh in, but I know you want to give an opportunity for any members of the public to speak as well.
Questions at this time? Okay, then we'll have comment from the public. Is there any comment from the public? Questions from the public? Okay, we do have one, okay.
So I have one that was given to me. Frank Kelleher meant to be here. He got called away on water district business, so he asked me to read this. Good evening, board members. As an elected representative of Lakeside Water District, I think map 3A is the board's best choice. It closely aligns with the Lakeside Fire District and Lakeside Water District maps. This is something that when my father was on the school board, he was trying to complete. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I applaud the board for moving forward with this process. Respectfully, Frank Kelleher.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's fine.
I was
driving earlier. I have to call someone else when I'm driving.
Okay, excellent. Any thoughts then from the board on some preferences in map? We have certainly a lot of input. We saw the they put our recommendations we talked about last time into place with 3A and 3B. Any additional thoughts, anything that you are concerned about? I'd kind of like to open this up for us to chat about.
Can you help me conceptually with Eucalyptus Hills and 3A and 3B? Because 3B in my view has more Eucalyptus Hills, is that true?
They are,
And really, it's just more of a kind of a people who locally know Eucalyptus Hills better than me. You see what I'm saying? Like the purple is down further on 3B than it is on 3A.
Right.
So is 3A cutting that in half more, or is it?
It's going river.
Yeah, so 3A, you have the mobile home park on the one side of the street, and you have Lakeside Farms on the other side. So 3A brings up to that road and puts the mobile home park into 4 instead of into 5.
Oh, okay.
To pick up the the extra people that would we would need to pick up by losing that little section of the yellow that carries over in 3.
Got it. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So before you head up the hill to Equal Sales.
And in terms of the official census designated places mapping, both of those are inclusive of that,
Okay.
right? So that the official census designated Eucalyptus Hills starts actually a little bit further north of Lakeside Farms Elementary School even, but we wanted to come down and include that in that Eucalyptus Hills district or area.
Okay. Any other comments? Thoughts?
Yeah, I just, I appreciate the new updates on the A and B, and so, not to favor any one area, 'cause I don't think that would be the right thing to do. And besides, we're not the sole board member for that district anyway. I think 3B is something that I'm attracted to, as well as original 3, going back to 2, 3 on the first page. I'm sorry, scenario 1. And 1 and 3B. I think that kind of divides it up, and, but again, so I hear anything else says.
You favor that because of what? Because of,
I think, with just the boundaries, and that's basically it, and I think everyone has 1 or 2 schools in it. Some have, let's see, more, I guess. That's just what I favor.
Can you expand?
I'm
One,
can't hear you.
yeah, so 1 and 3B are extremely different on the bottom half of the map, so
Yes,
what's the reasoning between those two?
I
Because
just
they're
figured-
vastly different.
right. I mean, I think the 3B, wait a minute. It's just something that I feel that I would like, personal opinion.
Okay. I am in favor of 3A. I think 3A is in alignment with our last discussion at the board level that we had last month. I think we all liked 3 for the most part, but we didn't like, what I recall that we didn't like was, we didn't like that jut into Eucalyptus Hills. And so, as a result of that, we kind of talked about moving that out, which is what has been done in 3A, while preserving Eucalyptus Hills, which is what has been done, while also preserving kind of the tribe, of course, is preserved in this, the center of Lakeside, the Lakeview area of Lakeside, the Winter Gardens portion, and the Riverview portion are all kind of preserved in this map. And I think those are areas that everyone would say Lakeside has, a Lakeview section, a center tribal area, a Riverview, and a Winter Gardens and Eucalyptus Hills section. So that to me is why I'm in favor of 3A. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about at this time. The other thing is, what I like about it is that while it does not appear, it appears to encroach on Eucalyptus Hills, like what Jim was saying, it really kind of cohesively brings together that center portion of Lakeside over the 67 together with communities that are similar, because I think that there's a lot of similarities there. So.
Yeah. I also like 3A because, again, it does keep the communities together that they do identify themselves as those communities, and I think that's important. Definitely having that not, keeping 67 as that cutoff. I like that we included all of Eucalyptus Hills. I also agree with Andrew on bringing that little jut out to include downtown Lakeside in groupings. I kind of like that as well.
The other thing about it, as you look at the data here,
And the variance is still low.
the variance is still low, right? And the other thing that I like about it is, population is relatively similar, but also there is the CVAP in one district it has it's the only map that we've had, I think, that has the highest spending for Hispanic and Latino families with one district, as well as one district that has the highest CVAP for Native American population as well. So that balances the requests that we made and that are in statute. So that's another reason that I'm in favor of 3A as well. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? Autumn, would you like to opine?
Yeah, I just wanted to put in my 2 cents. So I liked both 3A and 3B. There was one tiny section on 3A that I didn't love, which is the little jut out.
I didn't like it either.
But I also don't love how large trustee area 1 is on 3B. And so if I'm gonna take, stuff from both of them, I'd like to go with the lower population variance, which is actually 3A. So that's kind of where I'm leaning
Okay.
as well.
To address that question, that is a good question, let's ask about it. So, did you guys run a scenario where in this scenario where you had Julian be the dividing line, so that little chunk that Autumn's speaking to, with the lake in it, was in trustee area 1 as opposed to 2? I figure you may have, but
Are you talking about, let me go back.
I'm on 3A.
3A, let me go back all the way to the big 3A. Okay.
So you'll see that little jut that kind of looks like a handle
Of
of
green.
the green
Yes.
in trustee area 2. Has Lindo Lake there. And Julian Avenue is one of the dividing lines here. Lakeshore you use, and then it goes to Julian. Did you guys run a scenario where just Julian was the dividing line?
So that the lake was.
So that the lake is in 1?
In the yellow?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a specific scenario, but, and I was on Zoom in real time with David's partner, Carolyn, who was here previously, looking at those different options. And it was a function of, and we played with looking at the handle, and there's a little bit of the yellow that swooshes out to meet the handle, and moving some of those chunks into the different areas, and it resulted in
Would have been high population variance.
high variance then, because
That little handle has tons of neighborhoods, and then even if you don't go down to Julian, it's a ton of people, you would have had to shift green into red, red up to blue, blue to 5, and you probably wouldn't have achieved what you
and
would have wanted.
part of the challenge, or I don't know if that challenge is the right word, but I'll go to the big map here. You see where the purple meets the blue, and there's Lakeside Farms Elementary there. One of the initial thoughts was if this triangle here of Lakeside Farms and here and then down was in the blue, it would have been more population there. But in dialoguing with the demography team, felt like that felt more like the Eucalyptus Hills neighborhood. And so keeping that triangle that included the elementary school and the homes that are right in there, in the purple meant then that, kind of dictated some other shifts to balance out population, not have variances, higher than I would have preferred. So that's, and that, David's right, that center of population right there, where the green and the yellow and the blue are all meeting, is highly
Dense.
dense.
Mhm.
And so moving little chunks like that has big swings and bigger swings in variance than certainly moving a chunk
Sure.
up in the northern portions.
Hopeful. Well then, I think we should probably consider a motion to adopt a map and then have discussion on a map. So, is there a motion to adopt one of these options?
Can I,
go
yes,
ahead.
interject briefly? I might suggest the motion include adopting the map with the proposed election sequencing as set out there too.
Correct.
Because those will be both components ultimately of the resolution that you'll be
Okay.
adopting. So just from a housekeeping standpoint, the resolution that you all have that was on the agenda as well has blank spaces for inserting which scenario the board selects, and then blank spaces for which trustee areas go in which sequence.
Okay.
And so that would be, the proposed election sequences are already on the maps.
Right.
I just wanted to kind of make that clear that the motion would then be to adopt, say, map 7 as presented with the, election scenario as presented, or something like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, no, that's exceedingly helpful. I don't disagree with that. Let's just make sure that I fully understand the numbers on all of these now. So give us a moment. Okay, I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. I got it. Okay. Good food. All right. So, let's get a motion on the floor.
Well, I move that we adopt map 3A and the proposed election sequence that is attached to it.
Second.
I second.
Okay. Discussion.
I've said my-
I said my discussion. I said my piece, so
Jim, you want me? Tim? You're good?
if you don't want to speak for or against, that's fine. I can call the vote.
No, I'm fine with 3, honestly, we're dying on the hill on 3A and 3B, and I just don't see a drastic difference between the two. I mean, there's some nuance to it, but
Okay.
it doesn't.
Okay. Any other discussion or comments before I call the roll? All right, hearing none, I'll call the roll. Trustee Bennett.
Aye.
Trustee Ellison.
Aye.
Trustee Casper. Vice President Hofer Moyer.
Aye.
Me? Aye. Motion passes.
So then the action then officially would be, the next would be to adopt the resolution 2024-16 with designated as 3A, and the trustee areas up for election in 24 then would be 2 and 3. And in 26 would be 1, 4, and 5, just going off of what was just moved and adopted. So that would be, next step, President Hayes, would be to adopt, take a vote on the resolution.
Okay. Then we'll vote on the resolution. Or do we not, do we need to?
No, we do need to adopt it.
We need to adopt the
Yes.
resolution, okay. Okay, so, let's see. Okay, I request adoption of resolution number 2024-16 regarding the initial proposal of the San Diego County Committee on School District Organization for the adoption by trustee area elections for our preferred trustee area boundary map 3A with the sequence attached. Is there a motion to adopt that resolution?
I I move that we adopt resolution 2024-16, representing map 3A and the proposed trustee elections.
Okay, I will second that motion. And we'll do a roll call vote because we had a split vote before. Trustee Bennett.
Aye.
Trustee Ellison.
Aye.
Trustee Casper. Vice President Holman Moyer.
Aye.
And me, aye. Motion passes. Okey-doke.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate your help. Thanks for your hard work. And we'll see you at the, are you going to be here for the meeting with the county?
Yes, David and I will both be here to walk through that, and, from a, like I said, from a Brown Act standpoint, that will not be agendized necessarily as a district governing board meeting, so in terms of, attendance and things like that, we can talk about that separately, just in terms of quorum and not having that, whether we need to agendize it, well, that's a separate conversation we can have offline. And I have resolution, I'm gonna actually collect signatures now, as we're here, and I marked the trustee areas on it, and then I will get a copy to the County Board of Education, so they can formally keep the process moving.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along. Do you want us to sign now or?
Well, or I can, you know what, I'll leave it with you all.
Yes.
You can sign, and then.
What happens?
Yeah, it's, okay, that's fine.
Okay, start with me and we'll do it.
Well, it's just for the secretary of the board, and then we just fill in all the A's and I's and,
Okay.
that's all we need, and then it's done.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Alrighty, moving right along here. We're going to our items of business. We have a resolution on the agenda about reducing or discontinuing particular kinds of services. I would like to have a discussion on this. So I have some questions that I think we should address. And I'd like Dr. Taylor to introduce the item and then kind of address some of the concerns we've heard, and then the board can ask questions regarding the item. Dr. Taylor.
On the board business session, we have the resolution number 2024-17, which discontinues services for the learning loss teachers as well as the MTSS process. I want everyone to know that this is not something that we take lightly, that we understand the absolute value of these programs, and it's just really sad that we even have to have a conversation. When we heard projections in the wind about the budget in December, we felt like there might need to be some categorical positions that would go away because those monies are going away. The January budget outlook, when it was given, the proposal looked very grim. We started conversations with our union partners very early. We talked to them about our concerns and that if the categorical funds dry up, we can no longer afford to fund these positions. We can't do it out of the general fund. We couldn't do it before, we can't do it now. So therefore, in an abundance of caution, we are putting these in a laid-off position because of the fact that the money may not be there. With the hope that if the money is there, these positions will be brought back. The teachers attached to these positions have a spot in the district. There's no employees that will be lost with this move. The services will be lost, and that's very unfortunate and very sad. We're working really hard to look at ways that we can keep them, but they're categorically funded. And when people were put in these positions, everyone was told these are categorically funded positions, and this is money tied to learning loss due to COVID. When this money goes away, we'll have to eliminate these positions. And so that's where we are right now with this. So there is some wording that makes it, that I want to explain, where it says on the resolution that the district has determined that it will be necessary to reduce or discontinue. I guess we could have changed that to may, but however, should this come down, it would be a will. And so that's kind of a moot point right there. We are hoping that it's not going to happen, but our number one priority is to keep the district financially solvent. I understand it's emotional.
Comments from trustees and I'll close.
Yeah, I'll ask a few questions because I'll admit I'm a little naive on a couple statements. You said the teachers aren't going to be lost. We're just not putting them in this position? Is that what I heard?
True.
So what physically happens to those teachers?
They would be moved into open positions in the district, open teaching positions in the district. The learning loss teachers would be,
Correct.
as would the others.
So is it possible in the future that those individuals could then move back into a similar position or a similar function as what they're accomplishing now?
That would depend on funding. Again, we would be right back to that funding question. If we came up with some funds to fund these positions again, then these teachers would have first option, my understanding is, at moving back into this position. But right now, there's no funding.
Understood. I think one of the things, again, I'm going to think out loud a little bit here, is one of the challenges I have with this is the learning loss vocabulary needs to stop, in my opinion. That if you look at the pandemic, it was 4 years ago. Every student that was in fourth grade during the pandemic is gone and above. The only people that were really in the pandemic during that time would be, what, your third and fourth graders? Fourth and fifth graders? That were directly involved in the pandemic 4 years ago.
I would say that the pandemic has an effect. We're 2 years out of it, so anybody who started in kindergarten is still highly affected. Kindergarten was a real hard grade. I would say we have people in the room that taught kindergarten virtually. That's a really hard grade to teach virtually. The learning loss title comes from the state. It's not something that we made up.
I guess what I'm getting at is how in the future, as we move forward, obviously these individuals and their roles are super valuable. That's been made abundantly clear by more people in the public have talked about this than any other thing that I've done in the board since I was elected. So clearly there's obviously some emotional aspect to it. And look, I work in the private sector. This year I've laid off half my staff. It's not just in the public sector that we're seeing this. The reality is that the funding's different, the economy's different, and everybody across the board is seeing the same thing. I guess the question is how, is there a plan moving forward to do something with the need that's obvious to everybody and not necessarily doing it through funding, but how do we rebalance it? I guess, again, I'm sorry, I'm thinking out loud on this, but the challenge to us as a district is how do we continue to support the teachers to help the students outside of special monies that are always coming in, or that would come in?
You have to look at the whole huge picture, and you have to look at all the different pots of money. We might have money over here, but it can't be spent over here, and that's just the way that we're set up.
Yes.
And so you have to look at all of those different pots of money and see what's available for that. This is something that we have been able to enjoy for the last 2 years. We've seen it make a really good impact. This is the first year that we haven't really had to pull those teachers continuously to go sub in other classrooms.
Right.
So I believe they've made a good impact this year. We're seeing some results from it. It's a great program, and the teachers are doing an amazing job with it. But the bottom line is, it's always been categorically funded. And let's say we are able to stretch those dollars, and we're able to have it again to next year, right? Next year, at the end of the year, we'll probably be having the same conversation. And let's say we can stretch it the year after that, but we find the money, we do it, because that is our goal, is to stretch as much as we can. The year after that, we'll be having the same conversation. These positions that are categorically funded, that we put in place to support our students, are important. There is no denying that. But if we can't afford it, then we have to look at where where you can rob Peter to pay Paul,
Right.
but then also it's kind of like, can we? What else is at stake there? So we have to look at all the different ways to do it.
Well, I agree, and like, one of the things that was commented on tonight is, elimination of the program is alarming.
Mm-hmm, I
Which
understand.
Which I totally agree with.
Mhm.
The balance that we have as a board is, the elimination of the budget's alarming.
Right,
And I think that's the bottom line when you look at where we are, like I said, in the private sector, the public sector. There's just no monies out there anymore. The monies that we have enjoyed over the last 3 or 4 years have been extraordinary because we basically just borrowed money out of thin air and handed it to people, like school districts and everybody else. We all enjoyed checks from the government over the last 3 years. That money's gone.
right.
And there's really, the reality is that money's not gonna be there, and it's not gonna be back. That's the sadness of it, but I think the reality.
I don't think that anybody, I mean, we all know it's sad, we all know that these services are important for our students, we get that. It's just a matter of, this is our reality right now, this is where we are, and it's our duty to work hard to have a working budget to keep our district financially solvent, because we don't wanna go into a situation where we need financial assistance.
Well, that's a big chunk of money too.
Can I add to that too? You commented that we would have to rob Peter to pay Paul, but should we rob Peter too? It's not like
Can
any
we?
of our,
Can
well,
we?
I mean, I get it. If it's a categorical, like, funding issue, that's one thing, but even if we could, that doesn't always mean we should.
Right.
That would be a big discussion. What are you taking away from? Because it's not like any of our programs are so abundant that we just have money spilling everywhere to take away from other programs that are working for our students as well.
Well, the reality is, if you take away money from programs, you're taking away money from another person. Most of our budget's labor. I mean, let's look.
80% of our budget.
And or students,
Right. So whatever you do to get these people back, you're gonna have to do it. So, and you're not gonna find it by taking rid of 2 custodians, or 1 person in the district office, or 2 maintenance people. That wouldn't even make it up. That's still not enough people that's gonna make up this kind of funding.
Right.
This is a lot of money. I mean, quick math, it's well north of $1 million, at least.
Mhm.
Well north.
I encourage people to come to, I think it's our next meeting when we're talking about the budget, and I would love to see, employees here to hear what's on the table, and what we're looking at.
I mean, we've had the luxury of the last 4 or 5 years of having a decent budget coming in, which has been nice. It hasn't been great, but it's been way better than it used to be. And of course, now we're seeing this huge dip that we're seeing. I'm seeing on other boards as well. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars that are being cut. So, I mean, we know it's good work. We want the work, but we also need to follow the timelines as well to make sure that I would love to say, well, let's wait until May or June when we have a budget, but then we're outside of procedurals
Right.
that are equally as important. I'm a procedures person.
Even if we put it off until March 14th, as you know, our board meetings are in the evening, and they're not over until late in the evening, and that would give us about 8 hours to turn around and do everything that we have to do to follow the procedural timelines, and so that would be pretty much impossible.
Well, I don't know if that, waiting that long, I don't know what changes.
It doesn't.
In my opinion, I don't know if waiting until March 14th doesn't change.
I think what it facilitates is additional conversation regarding the process. But I have ensured and will ensure that that conversation happens, with folks, so that that's aware. The thing is that the catch-22 that we're in, as we've alluded to, is we won't know about the state budget until after March 15th. We have to do this in order for us to know what our path is moving forward. If the money comes in, the money comes in, and this is moot. Or if we create creative opportunities between now and then to get increased cash flow, then I'm all open ears, and as policymakers, that's our job. But at the same time, we have our whole thing is we need to ensure the district can protect itself so we don't pull from other programs, because that's what would end up happening. And in the tune of well above 1 million. So, and that's significant for us. So, those are all good points.
this is very disturbing to me, and I understand that, you know, we have to work within a budget and the categorical funding and earmark. But these are some very gullible children, and they develop very special relationships with those teachers and the other staff. And I hope that we can find a way, if not at least next year, to continue this and to the work that I think is exceptional for these children. Because if we don't, what's gonna happen to them? Are they gonna be failing? Are they gonna be more vulnerable than the rest of the population? Are they gonna require other kind of services? I don't know. So I hope we all can be creative, and I always welcome the public input in this. It's just really painful to know that those children will no longer get those services. I hope something creative can be done within the budget and this board, because I'm picking up that we all feel the same way. Unless I'm wrong, and I don't think I am on this one. Thank you.
Yes, agreed. The interview, and I've expressed this to every person who's contacted me, that, you know, I've seen the data, I know it works, so that's not what's at issue. What's at issue is process. Quite frankly, we're just waiting to see what the state gives us, and then in the meantime, we actually have some time to figure out other opportunities and how to retool something in the event the money is not there. Because these are good programs, and we should want to keep them. So I think that gives our team and time to figure it out. So, and that's your task.
Can I ask a question of Dr. Minsker?
Sure.
And I want to put you on the spot, I'm sorry. Have you had time to really digest this and think, okay, and I know you're a thinker, and I know probably in the back of your head, you're already like, okay, what things are we gonna do? What things are we gonna be able to do to help mitigate the loss of this many people? Is that something that you've been able to really process yet, or can you comment on anything about that?
I don't know that I've fully processed it, because the way my brain works is I'm gonna search for a solution until I find one.
So you haven't found it?
No, I haven't. I have not found one. So I guess for me, my hope is that we land somewhere in the middle. My hope is that, and it's a hope because I have no idea what's gonna happen, that maybe we get partial funding and we're able to target the support to the schools whose data shows that they need it more desperately maybe than another school site. So rather than having a model where everyone has the same thing, maybe we have more of a model where we target what little support or medium support, I don't know, we can offer to the sites that show through their data that they have the greatest need. Another thing that we have, so there's several different positions here, and so maybe we can keep some of it, right? That would be my greatest hope, other than keeping it all, which I just don't think is realistic at this point. But we've also done some creative things at our school sites over the last few years, and I'll just mention Lindo Park as an example, has a WIN model that it actually started at, did it start at Lemoncrest? It actually started at Lemoncrest, didn't it? And was replicated by Lindo Park and Tierra del Sol, where they're using kind of creative scheduling to provide some additional time for teachers to provide intervention for students during the school day by regrouping students across a grade level by need. So if there's 4 first grade classes for 45 minutes a day, I'm making up the math here, but one teacher would take the kids that really need intensive intervention, and then another teacher might take the kids that need moderate intervention, and then another teacher might take the kids that are on grade level, and another teacher might take the kids that need enrichment. So we've got some, I think, models with some potential in the district that we can grow. And then another goal that we've had for a long time is to do some training with our teachers on creating in-classroom intervention models. That's a little bit harder because you're taking time, a limited time, and kind of retooling how that time might look. So I don't have any magical fairy dust on this one, sorry.
I'll await your fairy dust.
Any other questions or comments?
I mean, just to echo what Ron said, I think it is incredibly frustrating. And, you know, the reality is the state has mismanaged their funds and went from a $60 billion windfall to what I think, whatever it's landing on now, $40 billion shortfall. So somehow the state's lost $100 billion somewhere. And that's the reality that we have to live by, which is we rely on that funding. So, I mean, I know we have a creative group of people that can help mitigate this through shuffling things around, finding grants. I mean, you guys have always done such a great job of digging and creativity and figuring things out. But unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, I'm with Ron on this one. There's no money, I don't know what to tell you. They're not funded anymore. And as much as I'd like to change that fact, I can't.
Get it? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion on adoption of this resolution. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution 2024-17.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. We'll do roll call. Trustee Bennett.
Aye.
Trustee Ellenson. Trustee Casper. Vice President Holfer Moyer.
Aye.
Me, aye. All right. Okay, that's what's all right. Next, closed session. The board will adjourn to closed session.
Yeah,